to the beach? Want to go to the beach? Why don't we just swing by the yacht club and see if there's any good shots? Looks like a good day, Lucky. Come on, Lucky. Come on. Come on, we'll go down here on the beach. My photography really started with just walking on the beach with my dog. I'm a very early riser. I get up at 3 a.m. every day and I'm down the beach anywhere from 5 to 6 a.m. in the morning. And I'd be walking the beach and watching the sun come up in the east, and I just thought I'd like to capture it. Every day I go out, people say, where do I find the picture? Where is it? And that's what I have to ask myself. Sometimes it's easy. There's a nice clouds. There's some interest, but sometimes the sun comes up and it's so bright I have to search for the photo. And sometimes it might be a reflection in the sand. It might be the warm glow of the sun on the buildings that go along Shore Drive or Point Shirley and Winthrop. And but sometimes it's a reflection in puddles. It might be birds. It might not be the sun itself, but it's always there. The photos I take, it doesn't matter, spring, summer, fall, winter. The weather offers all kinds of opportunities. Maybe it's snow or white caps, fog. In the winter, when it gets down below 10, I use hand warmers. But no, there's great opportunities, like with along Shore Drive, where if you have a lot of ocean spray, it'll freeze on the railings, and photographing through those icicles, there's always something to capture. Lucky is somewhat of a celebrity now, in that my wife could be walking him around Deer Island, or just to walk around town, and someone will stop my wife and say, "Is that Lucky?" And they won't know who she is. They might not even know who I am sometimes, but they'll recognize Lucky. And so he's somewhat of a little celebrity. And our people will identify him and then say, "Are you Mr. Honan?" I've lived in Winthrop my whole life. I hate the word towny, but I was born here 1947. I'm one of 7 kids, 5 boys, 2 girls. The oldest and the youngest are girls. My father owned a gas station across the street from what is now the CVS. It was Bill Honan's Texaco gas station. Then after he retired from that, we had a gift shop down the center where Christopher's Flowers is. And from the time you could walk, every member of my family was involved in that business. After the gift shop, we sold Christmas trees and annuals and perennials and Mother's Day flowers and Memorial Day. And we always had to work. And as much as I hated it back then, having to work as a young boy, it was actually quite an education. I think it prepared me for dealing with people when I had my sign company, dealing with problems, and trying to solve them. But it was good. It was small town. Friday nights we'd go to the basketball games over the gymnasium, and I got to know a lot of people in town, very much like now. I'm very involved in the community, knowing people, but not knowing everybody's name. And my parents were very involved back then. My father used to have a little piece in the paper. It was called Bill Honan Says, and he'd have some kind of, I don't know, he might be talking about the fact that the Christmas trees were coming in next week, and he was hoping to see some of his old friends and customers. It was a good way to grow up. Yeah. I met my wife in 1966. I had just graduated from Winthrop High, and she was a Revere girl. We met and started dating, and like I say, next year, 2016, will mark 50 years that we've been together. Yeah. So I was off to Vietnam in 1969, and it was a pretty terrible place. It was. I got off the plane and was told that I was in the 82nd Airborne, and I corrected them and told them they had made a mistake and that I was a draftsman, and they didn't agree with me. And so I was a member of an engineering unit, but I was there a couple of days and was sent out into the jungle on guard duty on Ho Chi Minh's birthday, and it was terrible because I was this young 20-year-old from Winthrop, never really been any place, and sure as hell hadn't been in a war zone, and out in the jungle where there was no light, and so petrified of being separated from my unit. And it was a pretty tough place. In my unit, we lost over 200 men. That was over a little, just short of 2 years, and that everyone you knew, I mean, there was a lot of death around. But when I came home from Vietnam, I never told anybody where I went. I never told anybody what I saw or what I did. Not that I did anything bad, but there was no welcome. There was no free meals. You wanted to get uniform off and move on with your life. I never got spit at, but it was a whole different time of this country. And you know, we were shunned. I guess they wanted us forgotten, and we didn't know why. And even now, like I could say, I think it's 46 years since I came back from Vietnam, and I still don't know why we were treated like that. And it's probably something that I'll take to my grave. It's a scar that will never leave. What do I do every single day? I wake up and I write someone a letter. And so in going on 14 years, I've sent 31,000 pounds of care packages. And I've written over 3,000 letters. Just this weekend, I was involved in packing up Christmas trees. And they're going not just to Afghanistan, and Iraq is just about, there is just a token group of military personnel there. So now I've branched out to Africa, South Korea, Japan, ships in the Persian Gulf. The day after Thanksgiving, most of them will go out. The post office will actually open up early for me because I'll bring in so many packages. And it's just something I do. It's not really to make up for Vietnam. It's just something I like to do. I like to give back. sunsets here are Boston. We're looking towards Boston and the skyline, and it's a whole different type of thing. Whereas the morning sunrises are a little more natural, just the natural forms of the islands and the sun coming up over the horizon. The sunsets really frame in Boston and everything around it. Matter of fact, a lot of times when I get a really nice shot of Boston with it glowing, I like to title it kind of that slogan you hear more and more, and it's kind of a cliche, but Boston Strong is, it sits there anchored, on the land, and the buildings are standing there so strong, almost like it was a castle wall, and it, represents the strength of Boston. And now that I'm retired, I think there'll be more sunset photos in my future.